Hello and welcome to our edition of the Rural Report this afternoon. My name is Angelina Magerl and I am a Community Foods Associate, Native Communities. I work for the Center for Rural Affairs and I work in the Omaha community for the Omaha tribe. Today I have Melinda Williamson from Morning Light Kombucha with us, and she has a business that she started in her community. And I'm just going to pass this over to Melinda, let her introduce herself, and she can talk a little bit more about her business and how she got started.
Bonjour, Melinda Deshnikas. I'm the founder of Morning Light Kombucha. We are a small kombucha company in Hoyt, Kansas. We got our start in 2016, and we've just been, we kind of specialize in kombucha, like smaller batches of kombucha, and we really focus on our ingredients and just getting, sourcing from local sources and local farms around our community. So that's a little bit about us.
And how did you come about kombucha? Because it's not something that's like common in our communities, and it's not something that we ourselves make like traditionally. So what turned your focus towards kombucha?
So I, about 11 years ago now, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune illness. And so during that time, it was just a really scary time. I was really sick. And I just started kind of looking at ways to heal with food and just kind of going back to things that I was taught, growing up, and just how food is medicine, and so I really started kind of focusing on like what I was eating and knowing where our food was coming from. And I also started kind of researching about, the sources of autoimmune diseases, and a lot of it, stems from the gut, and really getting the gut back in a healthy state. And one of those ways was through fermented foods. And so I started kind of looking, I've always eaten like sauerkraut and kimchi and, different things like that are fermented, but I kept seeing kombucha, and I finally got a chance to kind of drink that. And it really helped, get my gut health back in balance. And so that's kind of how I discovered it. And, the kombucha and fermented foods, all in, along with just kind of changing and being up, really being conscious about what I'm putting into my body, has helped me kind of keep my autoimmune illness under control for the past 11 years. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then I decided, I was working in academia in Oklahoma. I worked for Oklahoma State University, and I was down there and wanting to move back home and move closer to family, and kind of decided around that time that I wanted to kind of start a business when I came back home. And eventually, like, long story short, I ended up focusing on kombucha as a business. And so it was just something that wasn't around here. It was something that I knew would have an impact, like a good impact and positive impact on so many people, like in my community and just Native communities in general. And so that's kind of how I got my start.
That's awesome. A lot of it, does come from necessity and not wanting to put chemicals and like medicines and stuff in your body and try to heal yourself naturally. I think that's like commendable to even do that own research for yourself. So you talked about sourcing your ingredients locally. So what type of ingredients are you able to get in your rural community and on your reservation?
So we work really closely with farms that are really committed to sustainable and regenerative agricultural practices. So that in the beginning, I was like, we need organic, like we need to work with these organic farms. But then reality hits that when I'm out there, that being organic isn't always attainable for these small farms. It's really costly, but what they're doing with their practices and, using more natural pesticides or just doing things in a better way for like better stewards, I guess, of the land. You know, they're making a difference, and their products are chemical free. You know, they just don't have the label of organic, and so that's kind of been a shift through through my business. And so anyhow, so some of the things that we're able to get from those farmers, which all of the farms we work with, we go out and we check them out, and we just have these really great relationships. But we're able to source strawberries, blackberries, basil, beets, a lot of just anything you can pretty much get on a farm, we're able to source from them. The big ingredients we're not able to source locally are all of our citrus fruits. So unfortunately, but yeah, so those are some of the ones that we get from the farms. And then we also go out and harvest and like forage for our own like traditional kind of foods. And so that can be, sage, it can be like mulberries. We go out and forage for things that we don't necessarily use in kombucha just because we get it in really small quantities. But some of the things that we're able to get in larger quantities are like choke cherries, blackberries, gooseberries. And, if you've gone out foraging, that a lot of times you can spend a lot of time out there and only get a couple of cups, or something like that. And that's what I love about my business is, we're not this mass producing kombucha company. We're making really small batches. Our largest batch is 55 gallons. And so if we only get a cup or 2 cups of gooseberries this year, then we'll just do 1 5-gallon batch, And so, and then that just is a specialty, kind of foraged flavor that we're able to offer. So it's just fun, and it just keeps things interesting. We're able to offer last year around this time, or in February, actually, we launched our canned kombucha line. And that's when we really started to focus on 4 flavors. But before that, we did about 100 flavors a year. And that's because we are able to do these smaller batches and just offer tons of different flavors. Now that we consistently have 4 signature flavors with our canned kombucha line, we've kind of cut back on our other flavors. So we're doing about 60 flavors a year. And so it's still quite a bit, but it's just a lot of fun.
That all sounds amazing. And I love that you forage for things in your local community. Like you said, sometimes it does seem like a lot of work with very little, little that you get back that you're picking. But I think that kind of adds to the value of what you recognize that value. But I like that. So you were also talking about your canned kombucha. So how about like packaging and marketing? How did you go about that? And were there some obstacles that you had to overcome just being from a smaller community, having access to people helping you with marketing and advertising and then packaging, moving your kombucha into a canned product?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of like the can design, but prior to getting cans, how we offered our kombucha was in refillable bottles. So sustainability has always been, at the forefront and one of our foundational values since the beginning. And so I didn't want to put it into prepackaged bottling and things like that, especially when in our community where we live and where our brewery is, the glass recycling is very limited. And so when I started, after a couple of years, I'm like, okay, I think I could do cans. People aren't really doing cans, but people are recycling cans in our communities. It's easily recyclable. And so I settled on cans and really just started like sketching out designs for what I would want it to look like and what I would be interested in seeing on the shelf and what would be eye-catching. And so I found it was actually one of my customers who just happened to come get kombucha, and she saw me doodling, and she's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm a graphic designer. And I'm like, can you take a look at this? Is there any way you can make this work out? And so that was really, really cool. But I lean on a lot of, she was a non-native designer, but most of the graphic designs that we have for any of our stuff is all native designers. So that's been really fun. You know, we're close to Lawrence. We have access to people, you know, that are close by to help out with any types of, you know, marketing materials and things like that. And now you can do everything virtually. Everyone's so used to it, so that it's easy to find people to help out. But when we went to cans, I really just was reaching out to people, other kombucha companies that were canning, and like, what are you using? How are you guys doing this? Is it affordable? Is it profitable? And we ended up getting, you know, getting the equipment that we needed. And what we're doing is just hand canning it. And so we don't have, you know, because we are really small still, we don't have a canning line or anything like that. Our canning line is a manual canning line. And so it's fun. And, you know, by expanding in that way, we've been able to hire more people from our community to help out with production and just everyday operations. So it's been really, really cool.
That sounds amazing that you're able to do that. So like you talked about how your business has evolved. You went from glass bottles to cans. And also like you talked about some of the obstacles having to go outside of the community to get help with some things. So what does long-term sustainability look like for your business in your native community?
I guess when I think about that question, sustainability in my community is really, I guess, about creating opportunities for people in my community, you know, and there's never been a business quite like mine up here. And so there's a lot of new skills that I'm able to provide. And so I like to look at my business as a way, like a stepping stone for some people to have more opportunities for them in the future, and more skill sets and job skills, I guess, so that they're able to continue on with their desires and goals for their future. And so all the employees I've sat with at one point or another and been like, what do you know, you're working for me, but I want it to be beneficial to you in the future too. Is there anything that you feel like you could bring that would help, you know, enhance the experience? Or is there anything that I can do to help you get to where you want to be? Like, we have one of our employees, four of them are in high school. And so one of them wants to go to school for like graphic design and things like that. And I'm like, you know, if you want to work on some projects, you know, and do some work in graphics, you know, and just get some skills and for your resume or for your portfolio, you know, those are things that I want to do. So if I'm thinking about sustainability in terms of like my business within my community, that's a way that I see is like a success or a win for my business. That's kind of how I look at that, about that question. But yeah, so
I like that. And I love like that you're so busy all the time, because anytime I try to reach out to you, you're like, oh, I got this going on. And anytime we talk, you always have something going on. So I know that you're doing well, and that you are, you know, you're going places with your company. And I like that for you.
Yeah, thank you.
And all of the positive impact that you're having in your community, and like opening up doors for other people besides just you and your family. Like, you're helping to train people in the community and like show them different avenues that they can access, but then also setting a good business example and like showing that it is possible to create a business in a rural community, and especially on a reservation, because it's different. I mean, it is different than starting a business in like an urban city or anything like that, because there are some things that do make it easier, but some things that also make it more difficult.
Yeah, that's true. I get a lot of offers like, hey, you should come to Topeka, which is the
Mhm.
closest city. And we've got these incentives and business incentives for you. And it's kind of like, I know what I want to do with my business, and that's create jobs here in my community, for our tribal members here. And if I go there, that's limiting those opportunities. And so to me, it's like, yeah, I might make more money, or yeah, I might, have a bigger place, but that's not why I got into my business. And so I have to remind myself, like when I have these kinds of dilemmas come up, remind myself like why I do what I do and keep all of that at the forefront. So it's just good for me too. So yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. Well, it's been lovely talking to you today, and I hope to have you back on, well, not soon, because I know you're busy, but to have
Yeah.
you come on again and do an update. I've loved talking to you. I always like talking to you.
I do. I enjoy talking to you too. Yeah. And I don't want to, I know that we have to go, but I wanted to say one more thing, is that, one of the things that you and I had talked about is resources.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I don't utilize resources in the cities around us, but there are a lot of resources that I found online, and I can link those somehow. Maybe, yeah, that have helped me. There's grants out there that I knew there were when I first started, but I wasn't
Mhm.
seeing them. But I finally have found several, and I can link, to wherever, on
Oh,
Facebook or
yeah.
something like that. So if
Mhm.
people are looking, they're wanting to start a small business, or they have an existing one, then maybe these things are things to keep on your radar. So that can help you out.
Absolutely. If you wanted to send those to me, anybody that's watching that would like to have access to those resources, they could email me
Yeah.
at my center, at my work email. It's Angelina M at CFRA.org, and I can get you those resources.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you so much.
No.
I really appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you do. And thank you for being with us today. And I hope you have a good afternoon and
You
stay
too.
busy. I hope
Thank
you do.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.